Welcome to JavaScript Complete Beginners Tutorial Series, and this is the first video, and in this video we are going to write our very first program, Hello World, and then we will talk about what are datas and data types in JavaScript, what are variable and all that good stuffs. So first of all, select a folder in your computer where you want to save all your codes, and in my case I have created a folder called JavaScript, and inside this folder I am going to keep all my files of my coding. So right click in this empty folder, and since I have downloaded VS Code, I am getting this option of open with code. So if you haven't downloaded it, download it in your computer and install it. VS Code is a very popular code editor, and your VS Code will open up like this. If you see nothing on this window, just click on this Explorer icon, and now you are able to see the name of your folder, JavaScript. And in here we are going to create our files. So let me go ahead and create my first file by clicking on this create new file icon, and I'll give name of the newly created file. I'm gonna call it index.html. Now VS Code has automatically opened this file. In here I'm gonna write some boilerplate code of HTML. If you don't know anything about HTML, then I have made this video. Go ahead and watch that video. You will learn basics of HTML within 50 minutes. I'm not going to explain these HTML codes because I assume that you already know some HTML. You have basic understanding of HTML. Now, as you know, to write any specific thing in HTML, we have some specific elements. So in case of JavaScript also, we have a special element that is called script element, and inside the script element we write all of our JavaScript code. So let's go ahead and create a script element inside body tag. So now within the script tag we can write JavaScript code. Please note that all your JavaScript code must be written inside this JavaScript tag or inside another JavaScript file, which you will link to this document. But we are going to learn about that method a little bit later. So for now we are going to use our script element. Inside this we can write our JavaScript code. So let's go ahead and write our very first code, and let's write hello world. So for that I am going to alert this message. What is alert? You will see in a minute. Now this is an alert function. If you don't know anything about function, what are functions and what is this word alert and why have I given this parentheses, if you are not understanding it, don't worry. Now inside this alert function, within the parentheses I am gonna put double quotes, and inside this double quotes whatever I write will pop up on our web browser. So let me write hello world. I think my caps lock was on. Okay, now it is on. Now I'll save the file. Now to run this file on web browser, I can directly open it with my web browser, but I am going to use a live server. Websites are generally hosted by a server, so we are going to mimic that real world scenario, and for that we are going to use live server extension in VS Code. So if you haven't already installed it on your VS Code, you can come to this extensions tab, and then you can search here for live server, and you see this first result. Click on it and you will get the detail page of live server by Ritvik Day. Go ahead and install it if you haven't already done it, and come back to your index.html page, right click, and if you have installed live server you will get this option of open with live server. So go ahead and click on it. It will open up your default web browser and it will execute your code. And now as you can see, JavaScript has prompted this message, and this message is saying hello world. So let me click OK, and now my page has loaded, and this page contains nothing since I have not written anything inside my body tag. I have just written JavaScript. So congratulations, you have executed your very first JavaScript code. Now let's start from the beginning. Let's talk about what are variables. To explain that, let's write some code. So I'm gonna type a keyword var, and then I will give name of my variable. So I will call it number 1, and I'm gonna set it equal to 20, and once again I will alert this number. So I'll write alert and within parentheses this time I'm gonna write the name of the variable number 1, and at the end of the line I'll put a semicolon. So I will explain this code, but first let's see what does this code do. So let's save the file and open up our web browser. Now as you can see, the first line is alerting us this message, hello world. So let me click OK, and in the second alert we are getting this number 20. So let's click OK. So for the sake of convenience, let's rearrange these windows so that you can see the code and the output at the same time. Now let's reload the page. Essentially what is happening here, in line 12, here is the line number 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 and so on. Here what essentially is happening is, on line number 12, JavaScript is alerting this message which is written inside these parentheses, and on line 14 we are using a keyword called var, which is used for defining variables in JavaScript. So by using this keyword var, I am telling the web browser that we are going to define a variable, and then I have written the name of the variable. So we are saying that we want to define a variable, and the name of the variable is going to be number 1. And here by writing equal to 20, we are essentially saying that we want the value of this number 1 to be equal to 20. To understand this concept of variables, let me give you an example. You can think of variable as containers, as boxes. Boxes are used to store things, but variables are different kind of boxes or container which are used to store some data in the form of numbers, in the form of letters, so that these numbers and data can be used by our computer in a program. So on line 14, after defining the variable, on line 15 we are alerting the same variable on our web browser. So here is a challenge for you. Now you know what is the method of defining a variable. I want you to define another number and display it via an alert message. So pause the video and do it now. Okay, so let's move ahead. Let's define another variable. So I will write the keyword var, and I'll write the name of another variable, and I'll give it name of number 2, and I'm gonna set it equal to 30. And now here on line 16, instead of alerting number 1, I will alert number 2. Now let's save the file, and live server is automatically refreshing the page. So click on the first alert message, hello world, and the second alert message is 30, which is the value of number 2. So click OK. Now let's go ahead and define another variable and store sum of number 1 and number 2 inside that variable. So I'm gonna create another variable and I'm gonna call it sum, and I'll set it equal to the sum of number 1 and number 2. So I'll write number 1 plus number 2. And now I want to alert the sum instead of number 2. So I will write the name of the variable, and that is sum. And what should happen, we should see number 50 in the alert message, because what we are doing on line 16, we are taking the value of number 1, that is 20, and the value of number 2, that is 30, and then we are adding it, and then the added value is being stored inside the sum. And on line 17 we are just alerting the value stored inside the sum. Now let's save it, and on our output click OK on hello world, and now you can see we are getting the value of variable sum, and that is 50. So click OK. Now let's take our code one step ahead. Here in this example, on line 14 and 15, I had defined the value of number 1 and number 2. What if I want a user of a website to enter these numbers, and that could be any number? How can I take input from user? There are many ways to take input from user, but the one that I'm going to show you for now is using a prompt method in JavaScript. So instead of hard coding this number, 20, I will replace this with a special method, and I'm gonna write a keyword, and I'll write prompt. And this prompt method looks very much like an alert method, but prompt method is used only for showing some message on screen, but prompt method is used for showing some screen and also taking some input from a user. So let's put parentheses over here, and inside parentheses within the double quotes we can write some message like what we are expecting the user to enter. So we are expecting the user to enter the first number, so we will write this message, please enter first number. And then at the end of the line I'll put a semicolon. And for variable number 2 I'm gonna do the same. I will remove hard-coded value 30 and I'll write a prompt method over here, and inside parentheses I'm gonna give the message, please enter second number, and at the end of the line I'll put a semicolon. Now we will leave rest of the code as it was, since we want to add number 1 and number 2, but the only difference is that this time these numbers are going to be provided by a user of our website. So now let's save, and live server is auto updating, and again it's showing the first alert message and it's saying hello world. Let's click OK, and now as you can see the prompt message is also very much like an alert message, but there is also a field where we can enter some values, and it is saying please enter first number, which is actually the string or characters which we entered over here. So now let me type a number, so I will type 40 and then I'll press OK, and now the second prompt message is being popped up and it is saying please enter second number. So for second number I'm gonna enter 50. So if I'm not wrong, we should have seen number 90 here, right? But instead of that we've got output 40 and 50. If you look closely, 40 is the first number which we entered and 50 is the second number which we entered. So what happened? Instead of adding these two numbers, JavaScript just showed the first and second number sequentially. Why it happened? This means that our code has a bug. So when you become a coder or a web developer, you face this kind of bugs every day and you need to find out what went wrong. So welcome to the life of a web developer or a coder, where you will face this kind of bugs every day. So let's try to find out why it happened. Initially, when we had hard coded the number, when we had written 20 as the value of number 1, the number 20 was being assigned as the value of variable number 1 and it was being considered as a number only. But in this case, when we are taking the input from user using a prompt message, the user entered value is not being considered as a number. Instead, it is being considered by the JavaScript as a text. So the first number which we entered, 40, JavaScript was not seeing it as a number, instead it was seeing it as a text. And 40 was the first text and 50 was the second text. So what happened on line 16? It simply combined text 1 and text 2 instead of performing mathematical addition. And if you are a beginner, it might be confusing because there is a plus sign, and plus sign is used for adding two numbers, right? But in JavaScript, plus sign is also used for concatenating, and concatenating is a fancy word for joining. So in JavaScript, plus sign is also used for joining two texts. And in the world of coding, instead of saying text, we say strings. So whenever I say string, you can think of strings like text, and text can be anything. It can be a number, it can be a symbol, it can be alphabets, or any symbol can be considered as string. And numbers are the digits from 0 to 9 and combination of all the digits. Now if we want to cross check it, we have another method called typeof, and we can find out the type of the variable number 1 and number 2. So let's go ahead and do that, and we will again alert a message, and we want to alert the type of the variable number 1. So let me write alert, and inside the parentheses I'm gonna type the name of another method, and that method's name is typeof. And inside the parentheses of typeof method, I'm gonna put the name of the variable whose type I want to know. So I will write number 1. Now at the end of the line, let's put a semicolon. Now if I save the file, it will again show the message hello world. Let's click OK, and now it's asking me to enter the first number. So again I'll put the same values, 40 and then 50. And due to this line 16 alert message, it is showing us a message, and in the message there is written string. And by saying string, JavaScript is trying to tell us that this variable number 1 contains a value, and the type of that value is a string. And earlier I told you string is nothing but text. So this is why instead of getting 90, the sum of two numbers, we got this 40 and 50 as a result. Now we know the reason. So how can we fix this bug? Let's delete this line. To solve this problem, we can convert the data type of these variables number 1 and number 2. So instead of simply showing you the solution, I want to show you how a programmer thinks, and when he faces any problem, how does he find solution. So let's say I'm also a beginner and I don't know how to convert data type of a variable. So I'll simply go to Google and I'll search for it, and I'll type convert data type in JavaScript. And this first link is from w3schools.com. Let's go ahead and click it. And W3 School is a good source of knowledge if you are learning JavaScript. So here you can see it is saying that global method number can convert string to numbers. So let's use this method. Now on line 16 I'll write number 1, and I will set it equal to the method number, and inside the parentheses I will put the name of the variable whose data type I want to change. So in this case we want to change the data type of number 1, and I'll do the same for number 2. Let me explain line 16. On line 16 I am redefining the value of number 1. This equal to operator in JavaScript is known as assignment operator. In plain mathematics we call it equal to, but in JavaScript this sign is not an equal to. Instead it is an assignment operator, and it assigns the value of whatever is on the right hand side to the variable on the left hand side. So here the number method will take the value of number 1, and it will convert the value from string to a number, and then it will return the value to this variable number 1, and number 1 will store an actual number instead of a text. And this is how we are going to fix our bug. So let's see if our bug is gone or not. Let's save the file and come to our web page, and it's saying hello world. Again give the value of first number 40, and then I'll enter 50, and now I should see 90. Let's see. Congratulations, we have fixed our life's first bug. Now click on OK. So now let's discuss in how many ways can we declare a variable. We already have learned first way, and that is declaring a variable using a var keyword. But there are other methods too. But before moving on, let me show you how can we write comments on a JavaScript code. To write a comment, we can give two forward slashes, and then if we write anything after that two forward slashes, it will be considered as comment. And if we save the file, this line will have no impact on our code, since this line will be ignored by JavaScript engine on the web browser. So if we save the file and look at the output once again, we will see all of our code is working just like before and nothing has changed due to this comment. So this comment is mainly used by coders to type some human readable message, so that after a long time, if they look back at their code, they can understand what the code was meant for. So these comments are used for typing short messages. Okay, now let's come back to the topic of in how many ways can you declare a variable. So mainly there are three ways: using var keyword, which we have learned, using let keyword, which we haven't learned, and using const keyword. So if you want to define a variable using a let keyword, we can do that just like we did in the case of var keyword. So we can type let, and let's say we want to add two price tags of two items which we have bought from a shop. So I'll give it name of price, and I'll set it equal to $100 or rupees, whatever is the currency in your country, and price equal to 200. And we can define another variable as total, and we will set it equal to price 1 plus price 2. And at the end, I want to alert the total price. So I'll type alert, and inside parentheses I'm gonna give name of the variable. But before saving the file, let me comment out these lines, because I don't want JavaScript to execute these lines. So there's a shortcut in VS Code. If you want to comment out multiple lines at once, you can hold Control on your keyboard, and then if you press /, it will comment out all the lines which you had selected. Now let's save the file, and now as you can see, it is showing us the value stored in total, and total is 300. So hit OK. So as you can see, the let keyword works very similarly like a var keyword. These keywords let and const was introduced by JavaScript in ES6, and ES6 is version of JavaScript. So in very similar way, we can use the const keyword also. We can say const apple price equal to let's say $4 or rupees, and const banana price equal to $3, and we can define another variable for holding the sum, const equal to, and I'm copy pasting since I don't want to spend time typing all the time. Let's alert total price and comment out these lines. Now let's press Ctrl+S to save the file, and as you can see, it is saying 7, which is sum of 4 and 3. Now you might ask me, if we already had a keyword var which was doing the work of declaring a variable, what was the need of let and const? Actually, there are many teeny tiny differences among the use of all these keywords let, const and var, but I'm gonna show you only the important differences among all three of these. When we declare a variable using a keyword var, let's say I am declaring a variable called x and I have set the value to 10. I can redeclare it if I want to. So I can say var x equal to 20, and if I alert this, the code will work perfectly fine. And let me check it. Let's comment out this code, and if I save the file, you will see that alert message is showing us number 20, and the latest value was declared on line 37 over here. But redeclaring a variable like this is not allowed when we are declaring a variable using the keyword let or const. So let's replace these var keywords with let, and let's see what happens. Let's save the file, and as you can see, we are not getting any alert message on our web page. And the reason why we are not getting an alert message, because we have an error in our JavaScript code. To see the error message, we can right click on the web page and we can click on inspect, and a developer tool will open up at the bottom or at the right or left of your web browser. And this developer tool is very helpful when you are developing a website. So let's click on console tab, and here in red color we can see the error message. Uncaught syntax error, identifier x has already been declared. And in plain English, what essentially the error message is trying to tell us is we already have declared a variable named x on line 36, so we cannot redeclare the same variable named x on line 37, since this is not allowed in JavaScript ES6. And same thing is true if we declare this variable using const. Let's save the file, and again we get the same message, uncaught syntax error, identifier x has already been declared. So this was the first difference between var and the modern keywords let and const. Now what is the main difference between let and const? Let's look at another example. Let me declare a variable using let keyword. Let score equal to 134. So here on line 36 I have declared a variable called score, and I have set the value equal to 134. Now if I want to, I can update the value of this score variable. I can change its value. So I can redefine its value by typing the name of the variable, then I'll give an equal to, and I'll set it equal to 200. Now if I alert the score, I will get the latest value defined in our code, and the latest value is on line 37. Let me comment out these lines and let's save. And as you can see, the alert message is showing us 200. So we are allowed to redefine any variable's value if we have declared that variable using let keyword. But if I try to do the same with a variable declared with const keyword, let's see what happens. Press Ctrl plus S, and now you get another error, uncaught type error, assignment to constant variable. So const is short for constant. When we declare a variable using const, we tell JavaScript that this variable is a constant and its value will not be redefined in future. But in our code on line 37 we are trying to redefine its value, and that is why it's throwing an error and saying assignment to a constant variable. So these were the differences between var, let and const. So this is it for this video. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then please hit that like button, because it will indicate YouTube that this is a useful one. And if you are new here, consider subscribing my channel, because it will help me a lot. and it will motivate me to keep creating this kind of content so that I can help you guys in becoming a web developer. Some of my subscribers are not happy because I have switched from the topic of Blender to web development, and I have also switched from language Hindi to English. I will very soon make a video explaining why I did this. So if you are my subscriber, please don't get disappointed. And okay, we will talk in another video.